to the British Transplant Games, aimed at raising awareness of organ donation. More than 1,000 athletes who've undergone a major transplant, I don't think we have minor ones of those anyway, take part in events including curling, fantastic, cycling and table tennis. Today the athletes are at Wythenshawe Hospital meeting with the medical experts ahead of the event. Natalie from Bolton is one of those taking part. Mother of two, had a double lung transplant in 2012. Good morning.
Good morning.
Wow, you look well for someone who's had a lung transplant. So I suppose if you've had a lung transplant, you're supposed to look well.
Well, yeah.
What were you like before?
Really poorly. I was in a wheelchair. I used to wear oxygen. Couldn't get up the stairs at home. I had to have a stair lift.
Really?
It was really, really poorly.
It's a heck of a change then, isn't it?
A massive difference. My family and friends are so pleased to see me looking so well and just living
in the pink.
Yeah.
In the true sense, in the pink. Dear me. And now taking part in the transplant game. You're doing curling. I hope you're doing curling.
No, I'm not doing curling.
Oh, come on. So I want to have a go at curling.
I'm swimming.
Swimming?
I'm running. 10-pin bowling and archery.
10-pin bowling? When did that become a sport?
Well, it's one of the games, so I'm going to go.
It's hard, that, you know. Yeah, they're heavy, them balls.
Well, I did have a go the other day, and I need to practice.
Have you got a strike yet?
No, but my son did. Well,
did he?
He obviously can't do it for me, so wish he could.
What happens at the games then? Because
basically, we all come together.
Yeah.
All transplant recipients from across the country. I think there's over 1,000 of us all together, and we're not. Some of us will compete like really good, but most of us are just there to raise awareness, really, of organ donation and. The fact that they were alive and that we were able to participate. Yeah,
because, I mean, the way you describe your condition, how long ago was it since your transplant? 2
years ago, in February.
Yeah, horrible question. Would you be here now?
No.
Really?
No, I wouldn't. At the time I got my transplant, I think, my time was up. And my surgeon said it was spot on timing for you to have your transplant because we don't think you'd have been here.
How did you get? I mean, when did it all begin for you? The condition that led to you needing?
I started getting out of breath when I had my son Brandon. He's 11 now.
Yeah.
I'm just a normal everyday person working. I was training to be a nurse actually, and I just noticed I was getting a bit out of breath here and there. And as time went on, I was like physically turning blue and passing out. And it wasn't until I got pregnant with my little girl Isabel, she's 6, when I was in labour with Isabel, obviously I'd gone to the doctors and said, I'm out of breath, and they kind of said, well, you're young, there's nothing wrong with you. I was diagnosed, when I was in labour with Isabel, I was diagnosed with an illness called pulmonary hypertension, which is where the pressure in the lungs rises. The blood vessels get narrow, so you can't breathe, and it was a progressive, rare illness, and they had no idea how I got it. And basically, it was going to kill me within the next couple of years.
Right.
So I was started on all sorts of drugs, and I had a line put into my heart that pumped medicine in 24 hours a day. And basically, it didn't really work. I was still out of breath. I was in a wheelchair. I had the oxygen. But for 4 years, I struggled with that illness. And they said, in the end, you need a new pair of lungs.
When was the first time you heard a doctor mention the word transplant?
As soon as I got diagnosed with the illness, really, they said the outcome is going to be a transplant or you will die. We'll try.
Now that moment, the statistic numbers are that you're not going to get one because it's so down, particularly when you need a complete, both lobes of lung replaced.
They did tell me when I was assessed at Wythenshawe, you had to go through so many tests to be on the transplant list because obviously they need to make sure you're sick enough to need a transplant but well enough to survive the operation.
Yeah.
And I went through all that and you think, you're on the list now, but the reality is 3 people are dying a day waiting for a transplant and I could have been one of those 3.
So very easy.
So I had to make plans, I had to write my will, I had to say, kind of goodbye to my children and stuff because there was a real possibility that I wasn't going to get this transplant.
So what about, how many times were you called? Because transplants...
Just the once. I was so lucky.
Yeah, because people have that horrible disappointment when it doesn't happen, don't they?
And I don't know how people go through that because it would just be horrible to go and think it's happening and then to be sent home because your life depends on it, literally. But I was so lucky the first time I went and it happened.
A mate of mine, a chap called Jim Quick, used to work here actually, sort of doing business news, but his real business was running car companies. He was a fabulous bloke. But he said, he talked about that horrible thought that you're sitting there hoping to live, but in order for that to do so,
You're waiting
somebody
for somebody to die.
What's that like?
You do feel so guilty that you are waiting for somebody to die.
And also
so
to die in fairly horrible circumstances, you know, road traffic accidents
and you just
things
kind of
like
have
that.
to, like, think they're going to die anyway. Nothing I can do about that. And if they're kind enough and brave enough to have signed that organ donor register, then, you know, all I can do is just wait and be so thankful that it happens to me.
Indeed. And what do you say this morning? I think I can guess, but what do you say to those who are not yet signed up?
I think people need to have a look at their own lives and think, what would they do if their wives, their mums, their dads, their sisters and brothers needed a transplant? What would their opinion be then? If they were going to die because, you know, they needed a transplant, what would, you know, of course you would accept a transplant, so therefore you should be willing to donate.
Quite so.
So please join the organ donor register.
Absolutely. And it's that easy now, isn't it? You can do it with your driving licence, but you can do it on the web. You don't have to carry a card around with you. Like you can if you want, but you don't have to.
And my donor is a hero. She saved my life. She kept me with my children, my family, my friends, and I'm forever grateful.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. When are the games?
7th till the 10th of August. Don't come and watch me.
We'll watch you with your 10-pin bowling, because we've got to have a laugh, haven't we?
Okay,
Good luck in the game, anyway. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Natalie Kerr from Bolton. You heard what she said. How are you going to argue against that? 6 minutes to 8 on BBC